Good morning. Dr. Olive, Dr. Kerr, faculty, staff, distinguished guests, family, friends, and fellow students. It is my honor to stand before you on this graduation day. First, on behalf of all the graduates, I want to thank our families for their love and support. I would personally like to thank my parents, who have always been my solid foundation. They sold their home of 40 years and moved to Bluefield to be closer to me and my family and help out while I was in college. I would like to thank my husband and my children for picking up the slack, being patient, loving, and caring of my needs for the past 3.5 years. I would like to thank my extended family and my friends for your love and support. I would like to thank the education department. You have been my family for the past 3.5 years, and you will continue to be for the rest of my life. In the education department, we laugh together, we cry together, we work together, we celebrate successes together. But most importantly, we pray together. Thank you for giving us a caring environment so that our talents would flourish. I also want to thank the faculty. You have challenged us, made us grow, and encouraged us to be able to reach this day of celebration. I cannot think of a more perfect time of year for us to be graduating: Christmas. After all, it is through Christ that we have reached this day, and I give him all the glory and praise. 5 years ago, I was perfectly content being a stay-at-home mother and a substitute teacher. My children are the greatest gift that God has given to me, and it is a wonderful privilege to be their mother. But God didn't stop at that point with me, because he had another plan. It took him almost 2 years to convince me that he had a plan and was calling on me to fulfill it. Then he decided, since I wasn't listening, that he would do it through the innocence of a child. I was called to substitute for a full week in a classroom. The teacher had left very detailed lesson plans, and one of the instructions left was to read all work aloud to this one child. On Monday and Tuesday, I did exactly as the instructions said. On Wednesday, I noticed that as I read to this child, he was reading along with me. I began to wonder why this child needed his lessons read to him. I asked him to read to me, and he quickly reminded me, "Mrs. Brewster, you know I can't read." I asked him to try, and I even told him to follow my finger, and if he came to a word that he didn't recognize, I would help him sound it out. He began to read, slowly, but he began to read. I encouraged him, cheered him on, but he kept saying, "Mrs. Brewster, I can't read." This child's self-esteem and his willingness to even try had been completely zapped from him. I asked, "Who convinced you that you can't read?" And he looked at me and he said, "My teacher." All of a sudden it was clear. Even though I didn't know how, I knew God's plan for me was to become an educator. I had been on this campus many times before. Actually, I received my first kiss in the parking lot dome from my husband. And that was longer ago than most of you are old. My husband is a graduate of Bluefield College, and through the years we have attended many activities on this campus, but I never dreamed that Bluefield College would be my campus. When I told my husband what I was feeling, he encouraged me, and he even said, "Jen, if God is calling you, you better listen." Finally, I got my nerve up and I made an appointment. The day came, And as I parked my car, I sat there and I prayed, God, if this is your will, make it easy. At that time, I didn't have the knowledge to actually meet my classes, the test, or work that I would be required to complete. I just meant the meeting that day. I talked with George Campbell, and he sent me to Dr. Gomez. When I left the campus, I had my first college schedule in my hand. It didn't interfere with my children's schedule, and I had a packet of upcoming events. I sat there in my car, amazed. Wow, that was really easy. The next moment was matriculation, August 2005. As I walked into this beautiful chapel, I was so nervous. Everyone was so young, so giddy. I felt out of place and old. Dr. McMillan began to speak. He offered kind and encouraging words. And then he said he was going to give us our first exam. It would only be one question. He said some of us would know the answer right away. Some of us would have to search for the answer. And sad but true, some would never know the answer. The question came, why are you here? He said, some of you came on your own will because you couldn't imagine not going to college. Some of you were made to come. Some of you are here because God is calling you, and others may not know why you are here. I knew the answer to his question. God had a purpose for me and a design that would allow me to continue fulfilling his purpose as I touch the lives of children. As I stand before you today, reflecting on all that has transpired in the past 3.5 years, I must ask you, where are you going? Or as we would say in this area, where are you headed? As Christians, we know if we believe in Jesus Christ, follow God's calling, and do his will, our ultimate goal is that we spend life eternal in heaven with Jesus Christ. I am a Christian, and I have followed God's calling for my life. I will leave this college community, I will walk out into this world, and just as Bluefield College changes the world one graduate at a time, I will begin to reach one child at a time. I will make a difference in the lives of the children I teach because I have the desire and I have followed his calling. Each of you, regardless of your field of study, has an obligation to fulfill. Please consider Hebrews 12:1 and 2. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. Let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. I challenge each one of you to listen to God's calling. As I close, remember that I'm an educator, so it is only fitting that I give you your last exam. It is only one question. Some of you will know the answer immediately. Some of you will have to search, pray, and depend on God for the answer. And some of you may never know the answer without first learning to depend on God. The final question is, where are you going? Where are you headed? May you leave armed with a desire to fulfill God's purpose in your life. Thank you.